I still remember the exact moment it hit me. It was a Tuesday night. Nothing dramatic was happening. I was sitting at my kitchen table with my laptop open, scrolling through my bank app, trying to figure out why my balance kept going down even though I felt like I wasn't spending that much. Then I saw the number, $20,137. That was my total debt. Credit cards, a personal loan, a couple of things I had told myself were temporary. And for the first time, I stopped pretending it was manageable. Because when I looked at the interest and how long it would take if I kept paying the minimum, it wasn't 5 years. It wasn't 10. It was closer to forever. And that was the moment I realized something uncomfortable. The problem wasn't the debt. The problem was how normal it had become. Most people don't wake up one morning and suddenly decide to get into $20,000 of debt. It happens quietly. A $900 emergency, a credit card for convenience, a trip you promised yourself you deserved. A few months where things felt tight, so you floated the difference on plastic. And because nothing immediately explodes, your brain adjusts. Minimum payment? Okay. Another purchase? Fine. You tell yourself you'll fix it later. But later has a strange way of never arriving. And that's exactly where I was. I wasn't reckless. I wasn't irresponsible. I was just doing what millions of people quietly do every month, carrying the weight while pretending it wasn't that heavy. Until the day I finally added it all up and saw the full number. At first, I thought the solution would be simple. Earn more money, cut some spending, pay extra when possible. But after a few weeks of trying that approach, something became obvious. I wasn't failing because of math. I was failing because of behavior. The truth is, most people don't struggle with debt because they don't understand numbers. They struggle because their daily habits quietly work against them. Small purchases that feel harmless, subscriptions you forget about, impulse decisions after stressful days, and a deeper pattern underneath it all. Spending money to create short-term relief. Once I started noticing that pattern in my own life, something shifted. Because the question stopped being, how do I pay off $20,000, and became, why do I keep recreating the same financial situation? That question changed everything. About 2 weeks after that night at the kitchen table, I did something that felt strangely uncomfortable. I opened a blank spreadsheet and I wrote down every single debt. Not estimates, not guesses, the exact numbers. Credit card number 1, credit card number 2, personal loan, interest rates, minimum payments. Seeing it all together felt heavy. But something interesting happened. The number stopped feeling like a fog. It became a target. $20,137. Not infinite, not mysterious. Just a number. And numbers can be reduced. That moment was the first real shift. Because when debt is vague, it feels overwhelming. But when it's clear, it becomes a problem you can work on. If I wanted to eliminate the debt in a year, I had to stop pretending small spending didn't matter. For years, I had believed something many people believe, that financial problems come from big mistakes, huge purchases, bad investments. But the truth is usually much quieter. It's the $12 here, the $18 there, the delivery order you didn't really need. Individually, they seem harmless, but together they form a pattern that quietly drains your future. So I created a rule. Not a complicated budget, just one simple rule. Every dollar needed a job. If money entered my account, it had a destination. Bills, groceries, debt, savings. This one shift changed the way I looked at spending, because before buying anything, I started asking a different question. Which job am I stealing from? And surprisingly, that question stopped a lot of purchases. Once my spending was under control, the next step was choosing how to attack the debt. There are two popular strategies people talk about, the avalanche method and the snowball method. The avalanche focuses on the highest interest rate first. Mathematically, it saves the most money. The snowball focuses on the smallest balance first. Psychologically, it creates faster wins. At first, I thought I should use the avalanche method. It made logical sense. But something inside me knew the real problem wasn't logic. It was motivation. Debt had been sitting in my life for years. I needed to see progress quickly. So I chose the snowball method. And that decision made the entire process feel different. My smallest balance was about $900. Not huge, but not tiny either. So I focused every extra dollar on that one card. For about 5 weeks, nothing exciting happened. The number moved slowly. Then one morning, I logged in and saw the balance, $0. That moment felt bigger than I expected, because it wasn't just $900 disappearing. It was proof that the system worked. For the first time, the debt didn't feel permanent. It felt breakable. And something interesting happened psychologically. Instead of feeling exhausted, I felt energized. That first win created momentum. Now, here's the part many people expect. Extreme sacrifice, no fun, living on instant noodles. But honestly, that's not what happened. The biggest changes were surprisingly simple. I stopped ordering delivery during the week. I paused 3 subscriptions I barely used. I cooked more meals at home, and I set a 48-hour rule for non-essential purchases. If I wanted something, I had to wait 2 days. What I discovered shocked me.
About 80% of the things I wanted disappeared within 48 hours. They weren't real needs. They were just emotional impulses. And by letting them pass, hundreds of dollars stayed in my account each month, money that quietly went toward the debt. Around month 4, I noticed something strange. My stress levels dropped. Not because the debt was gone. It wasn't. I still owed thousands. But the difference was direction. Before, my finances felt chaotic. Now they felt intentional. Each payment moved the number downward. Each month had visible progress, and that changed how I felt when I opened my bank account. Instead of dread, there was a sense of control, and that feeling might be the most underrated benefit of paying off debt. Months 5 through 8 were the hardest, not because the strategy stopped working, but because the excitement faded, the progress became routine, and motivation became quieter. This is the stage where many people quit, not because they can't succeed, but because the emotional reward slows down. So I created something simple to keep momentum, a visual tracker. Every time I paid off $500, I filled in a square on a chart taped to my wall. It sounds almost childish, but watching those squares fill up created a sense of progress that numbers alone didn't. Little by little, the chart started filling. By month 9, the balance had dropped dramatically, from $20,000 to around $6,000. At that point, something fascinating happened. The progress started accelerating, because the money that used to go toward earlier debts was now stacking on to the remaining balance. Payments grew larger, balances shrank faster. The final months felt completely different from the beginning. What once seemed impossible now felt inevitable. 12 months after that night at the kitchen table, I logged into my account one more time, and I made the final payment. The balance hit 0. No fireworks, no dramatic music, just a quiet moment where I sat there, staring at the screen, trying to process what had happened. $20,000 gone. But the most important thing wasn't the number. It was the realization that the habits I built along the way were still there, and those habits mattered far more than the debt itself. Looking back, the biggest lesson surprised me. Paying off debt isn't really about money. It's about awareness. Before this journey, money felt like something that happened to me. Bills appeared, balances changed, but I rarely questioned the patterns behind it. Once I started paying attention, everything changed. I noticed emotional spending. I noticed convenience purchases. I noticed how often stress influenced my financial decisions. And by seeing those patterns clearly, I could finally change them. Most people think becoming financially stable requires extreme discipline, but the truth is often simpler. It requires clarity. Clarity about where your money goes. Clarity about what actually improves your life. Clarity about the habits quietly shaping your future. When you see those things clearly, the right decisions start becoming easier. Not perfect, just easier. And over time, those small decisions compound, exactly the way debt once did. But this time, the momentum works for you. If you're watching this and feeling that heavy pressure, I want you to know something important. Debt has a way of making people feel isolated, like they're the only ones struggling with it. But millions of people are quietly in the same position, and the path out usually doesn't begin with some dramatic financial breakthrough. It begins with something much smaller, a moment of honesty, looking at the full number and deciding that the story can change. That's where my journey started. Not with confidence, not with perfect knowledge, just with the decision to stop ignoring the reality. And once that happened, the progress followed. The strange thing about paying off $20,000 in debt is this. From the outside, it sounds like a financial achievement, but from the inside, it feels more like a mindset shift, because the habits that created the debt were subtle, quiet, normal, and changing them didn't require becoming a different person. It just required becoming more aware of the choices happening every day. If you're at the beginning of that journey, just remember this: you don't need to solve everything today. You don't need perfect discipline. You only need to start noticing the patterns. Because once you see them clearly, you'll realize something powerful. The same small decisions that slowly built the debt can slowly eliminate it too. One choice at a time, one payment at a time, until one day you look at the screen and the number is finally 0.